Great. Well, I noticed that Commissioner Fritz has come in.
So the other thing that I wanted to come to talk to you about is the Street Access for Everyone initiative. We today approved a 4-month extension on the sidewalk obstructions ordinance, which I had heard a lot about when I was in the community and had concerns about these civil rights and the constitutionality of it. And I had said during the course of the campaign that I would need a lot more evidence to vote to continue it. I got a lot more evidence. I learned a lot in the last 4 months on a wide variety of issues, but on that issue in particular, heard from advocates for human rights, for the Constitution, heard from the business owners, heard a lot about the whole package of the Street Access for Everyone, that it's not just about the so-called sit-lie ordinance, although I think it's really important to recognize that it's a sidewalk obstructions ordinance. And I regret to say, I hadn't actually read the ordinance prior to being in office, and when I read it, I was like, oh, this is talking about not blocking the sidewalk in a high traffic area. Having said that, it also continues to have some concerns, and in the hearing last week, I put together a coalition of 4 commissioners who were willing to extend it for the conversation. We haven't decided whether we're going to ultimately continue it forever or let it sunset in the fall. What I came to the realization is I need some more information on this, and I think a lot of people need more information on this. I had people in deep southwest Portland rip me up and down while standing on the doorstep campaigning, talking about what is the city doing for people who are homeless, and what about the constitutionality of this issue, and what was I going to do about that? And I was thrilled that somebody who you wouldn't think would care that much about the plight of people living on the streets of downtown Portland was berating me for 20 minutes on the doorstep. Similarly, in outer East Portland, same thing, that people all over the city care about this issue and yet have not been as deep a part of the conversation as the folks in Old Town Chinatown and the downtown businesses. So I think I see this as an opportunity to engage more people in the process and to engage more people in the bigger picture. The ordinance today was about the specifics at the date in the ordinance, and it's so much more. And I was concerned that we've already had an 11% increase in homelessness this year, and it's going to get worse, as we all know. So if we were to let the ordinance sunset, there are already going to be more people sitting on the streets of downtown Portland this summer, regardless of whether the ordinance was there or not. If the ordinance was not there, people would say, see, that's why we need the ordinance back. That's the cause of more people being downtown. And that clearly wouldn't be valid, but I could just see that argument being made, and I didn't want to involve that. I also didn't want to get into the battle of trading human rights for funding. Completely separate in my mind. This extension, I didn't ask the Portland Business Alliance if they were going to continue the funding for the services. I didn't check with anybody to see, will you do something in return for this? I wanted them to be completely separate. There are other things going on. Commissioner Fish is working tirelessly to get the Resource Access Center funded, regardless of urban renewal issues. He wants to get that done, and the council put $1 million in the next year's budget to funding it ongoing once it's built. And that money, until it's built, will go to rent assistance. So there is a commitment on the council to making sure that services are provided. And again, I didn't want to tie that up into the bigger picture to me of human rights and how do we care for people? Who do we involve in caring for people? And I believe that there's more that can be done in involving the faith community and involving others in the greater Portland area. This is not a downtown issue to me. This is an all of us issue. How can we help? What more can be done? I want to look at the anti-camping ordinance, where the street access, the sidewalk obstructions ordinance applies during daylight hours, but then the anti-camping law applies during nighttime hours. And if the shelters are full, there's no way in Portland that it's legal to serve. But that hadn't been previously addressed, and I believe that we can address it. So Commissioner Fish, it's been 4 tumultuous months on City Council, and I feel like I'm pedaling as fast as I can and never quite catching up. And often things come to City Council, and I find out about them Friday afternoon when the ordinance gets put on the agenda, and I have to, put my staff to work Monday and Tuesday, and Wednesday, go in as prepared as we possibly can be, listen to testimony, and then I make a decision on the spot. That's kind of how City Council works. It makes me long for the days when I was on the Planning Commission, which is similar to the Human Rights Commission, where we could say, we'll have a work session on this, and then we'll come back and think about it, and then, in some ways, the way we make decisions at City Council and probably at the County Commission also is not conducive to problem solving and to making good decisions. People come into a hearing, as I used to as a citizen activist, thinking that my speech for 3 minutes was going to make a huge difference to something that had been worked on for 2 years. So we need to engage the community in a more meaningful way. And I realized that as a city commissioner, I had the power to say, I'm not ready to make a decision on this. And I want to have this opportunity, while people are invested in the outcome, to engage everybody in a further conversation. So that's my plea to you. We're putting together, my office and Commissioner Fisher's office, who's in charge of housing, of course, and I have both human relations and neighborhood involvement. We want to engage all manner of different people in this conversation, and I'm looking to you for suggestions on how that could happen, for help, for participation by you commissioners in our process so that we have monitoring perhaps by human rights commissioners at these meetings. You know, we're currently in a very contentious process with the Chavez Street renaming where things have not been respectful. And I think that for the issue with homelessness that we have an opportunity to do things differently and to help people understand the bigger picture. So that's my invitation to you. I don't have a specific ask other than that I would really like you to be involved and be looking for your suggestions on how that might best happen.
Well, anyone have comments, thoughts, feedbacks? One thing I want to just say, I think it's great that you're doing that you're bringing this to this body, because we want to be engaged in those kinds of things, and I think that's just terrific. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of engagement and feedback as it goes along. I don't know if people have immediate thoughts, but thank you for that.
And I read all my own email, amanda@ci.portland.org.us. So please, you know, if you, again, I don't want to ask you to give me all your suggestions right now. Well, no, I tend to have my best thoughts in the middle of the night. So if you wake up with one and that you'd like to make a suggestion of how you'd like to be engaged, I would love to hear from you. And then maybe coming back to a subsequent meeting to look for, to give you our plans and see how you'd like to be involved in that. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks. Well, if there's no other